It's the weekly 30-30 trading list on the ASX. These are the 30 best momentum companies over the quarter. That's the strongest quarterly momentum. And this week's 30 best launchpad stocks. Those companies that are building bases before a breakout, which is hard to find in this current market. Gary Glover has scanned the list and surfaced his favourites. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Chris. How you going?
Well, reminding myself of Tuesday's interview where you were talking about your short positions on the market. We woke up this morning and the Nasdaq's down almost 5%. So hats off to you there. That's that portfolio is working out really well. So taking that in this morning, but that's a different aside. We're looking at charts this today. So with that in mind, the huge volatility in the market, how are these momentum lists coming out for you?
Yeah, no, so it was interesting, the market there. Obviously, you obviously know that, yeah, I'm a bit bearish the market and got some pretty decent short positions on the US stuff, but the list is sort of telling us that as well. So when we go through our 30-30 list there, probably the high velocity rank, I guess the short-term moves, there's sort of, I guess the quality down the bottom end is probably, the moves aren't that impressive. So there's only a sort of few in the top half that are showing some decent moves. And then in our quarterly momentum stocks here, really it's all about, coal stocks, sort of energy, maybe iron ore. So it's a really commodity sort of overload in those sort of strongest ones there. So like Mount Gibson was our number 3. So, pretty strong, the iron ore space there. We just sort of seen, I think this one's come up a few times there, how we originally this sort of sat on top of the previous high, then got going. Bit of a throwback in here, but a nice move again here. But probably the only thing to worry about here is the volume starting a bit lighter. Moves had a pretty decent move, but Mount Gibson has done pretty well there, as has Grange as well. Another iron ore. Again, a bit of a consolidation through here. And then once we punch through there on pretty good volume, all that signal there, it's probably, cracking through the high there is pretty bullish after a bit of a consolidation phase as well. So decent sort of throwback there as well, come back into the range, but moved high there. The only thing going on here is just starting to see volumes light up a little bit, even though that high was there. So maybe looking a little stretched here. So you'd have to be probably tightening your stops. So I might be, rather than using my 50, which is a long way back, it might be tightening up here if I was long some of those. The other sector that's really strong here is obviously coal. So we talked about New Hope there last week. Obviously the trend is up here, but just a few, definitely some volume concerns there with some of the next, but that Yancoal is still pretty firm, still some reasonable volume through there. CRN, which is sort of one that I've traded earlier in the year as well, is still reasonably firm here. The good news there is that all these corrections are pretty small. So although it's maybe overlapping, so far we haven't seen an overbalance here yet. So volumes are a little light here. So that's something to be mindful of. I personally don't like to sort of see it overlapping after it's had a good run, but this trend's pretty high here. You just be tightening up here. Just got to give these give these things a bit of room here, as we've shown. These coal stocks and iron ore stocks have been on the list for a while, yet they continue to keep moving higher. So it's a beauty sometimes if your sectors are on fire, just give them room to breathe and let them run. But we just keep moving your stop up there. But for me personally, I'll be probably somewhere between the 50 and the 30 is probably where I'd be sitting. Give it a little bit of room, but not too much, just because you can see the volumes are starting to lighten off here. So we're sort of going, we're getting pretty stretched here, going up on lighter volume, but no reason it can't go a little bit higher still. Sector's still pretty robust, but definitely getting a bit long too. The only one that worried me a little bit was the New Hope, which I mentioned there, just because that correction there was a bit larger than the rest, and there was a bit of selling in that sell down as well. And we've sort of bounced here now without, so we're sort of, we might call this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days down. We should go to a new high in the same amount of time, Chris. So we want it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're 8 days against that 9. Haven't got near the high yet. So that's not And the volume's pretty light too. There's some pretty low volume in here. So that's the only concern for me. That's the one that probably looks a little bit tired, you hope, but yeah. So pretty robust sector, coal, but I'd just be tightening up here, that's all. But as I say, it's been elevated for a long time and it's sort of managed to keep going here. Most of those stocks have only had small corrections, so just got to watch for like an overbalance of the trend there. The other one on the list there was obviously AMP, which we spoke about there a couple of weeks ago. It's sort of broken out of that weekly range, and yeah, it's actually had some okay volume as well through there. Big thing for AMP actually is probably the weekly, how it's actually broken out of this little bit of a downtrend here, and yeah, the volume's okay there. So a bit of change of character in AMP. Not sure I trust it entirely, but yeah, it does look quite good. Challenger was one that we mentioned previously, sort of broke out. Again, there's VCP pattern here, this little, this little move here, little tightening up, and then pop through there. So again, these VCP is a classic thing as you do. Once they break, they go, but they do like to sort of, probably half the time, they'll do a little quick snapback. Like to anyone who's got their stop too tight, catch them out and then go again. So so this still looks quite robust there, but yeah, we're just looking for probably a measured move, sort of this sort of range on the top side here. So probably maybe just a little bit higher there.
So in this kind of market, these bullish positions are only longs. Are you having pretty conservative profit targets on these kind of trades if you're taking them?
Yeah, in this type of market here, rather than sort of have a 7 or a 9% stop and trying to get a 25 to 30% moves, I like my 3-for-1 risk reward. I might have only like a 4 to 6% stop, and then trying to get like a 12 or 18% move. So probably just I don't think you're seeing this same sort of moves, big moves. So probably just trying to be more tempered in the view there. Just have smaller targets there in this market. It's a pretty choppy market. So still got trades there. Just don't want to be risking as much here, I think. So probably betting a bit smaller, particularly on the long side there. So I'm kind of running out of money. Most of my money's on the short side at the moment. So but still a few long trades here and there. Yeah, the one sector which sort of did catch my eye was the lithium sector. Just to sort of had a bit of a cool off congestion there, but kind of no volumes through that move there. So it's just it's just a bit messy here, So if we look at our weekly chart there as well, we sort of had a nice pop here. Probably going through a bit of a congestion phase there. Volumes are sort of lighter here. Just might need a bit more time. So to me, there's sort of no real trigger there. Just basically sort of going through a bit, a bit of congestion there. So NVX, which is one stock in that sector, I noticed that had come back down, retested the low yesterday. A little bit of a false break there, which I always look for. Yeah, just not sure. I'm a little bearish. The overall market looks pretty volatile here. I think the commodities definitely, you can see there on your 30-30 list, and just the last month there, those have definitely been the strongest sector. So if we're going to be playing any sector here, it's got to be, I think commodities has definitely been one of the more robust. But yeah, some of those lithium stocks look interesting to me, but they're probably not quite ready. It's mainly just sort of the energy that's been flying and the coal's been flying here. On the high velocity there, so just hard to find sort of too much quality in there. Sort of Lovisa was sort of one that's been sort of tightening up here. Most of them have sort of had a little bit of a pop here, and sort of hit the list there from that. But again, we've sort of got a tightening up here. So you could argue this is a bit of a VCP pattern here, but still needs to sort of congest a bit more. And then, at this stage there, we still haven't broken a swing high. So we made lower high, lower high, lower high. So to me, like a lot of stocks on this list would just go on my radar to sort of watch there. So that's sort of one to keep an eye on. Servcorp is, this is probably interesting here. Bit hard to trade here, bit thin. But again, this is sort of the fact that it has broken above that little swing high sort of, is a bit of a mini positive, but it is a bit of a liquid stock as well. But Servcorp, so obviously if everyone's going back to the office there, that's probably one reason it might be on the list there. My deal was on the list as well. It's had a bit of a pop here, but volumes are still, we had one good volume day in there. Other than that, it's been pretty light. I mean, it's possibly sort of gone back to retest the low, put a higher low in place, starting to sort of kick up here. We probably need to break above this 60, 67 sort of, previous high here to sort of just be somewhat positive. But again, pretty lightly traded, bit of a hard stock here. So bit hard pickings in the in the sort of high velocity moves there. OML as well is, again, this has sort of been trending down for a bit, but this is quite a congestion sort of pattern. Last thing on the chart here is we have gone to a new high, so may possible change of character, a little bit of volume there, but and all this is quite congesting against the low there. So that's sort of interesting to me. It's just a bit of a watch. The thing that probably makes this more interesting here is the fact that our weekly is showing a really tight congestion pattern here for a long time here. You can see how tight the stock's been in this long period. So kind of longer we stay in this congestion, at some point we'll break out of that pattern there. So that's kind of in that, I think it's outdoor advertising there, home media as well. So could be one of those sectors that's probably done it tough, potentially might come out the other end. One stock which is I actually do have in quite a few of my portfolios is actually this Propel Funerals, which is again should be advantage from I guess the reopening then. But you see, the good thing about this one is it really, it's just been, all the corrections have been small there, Chris. See how sort of tight it's been. So this is why we don't want to see a big correction and overbalance there. If it stays nice and tight, it can just kind of keep, working its way high here. So I do like this stock here. It's growing quite nicely. Our weekly chart just showing a fairly robust trend here. Nothing spectacular there, just climbing slowly there. So possibly in this market, this might be a safe place to be. Only other ones to watch there was CHM, which is Chalice Mining. Again, we're in a bit of a downward move here, but we saw one little spike above a high there, came back to a new low, so a bit messy, but this is sort of a corrective decline here. So it's coming back to the old low there. So just, might need more time here. But yeah, probably just one to watch there as well, just because of the congestion pattern, but not too many great signals on the short-term sort of stuff. But I think that's probably as a result of the market being pretty weak.
Yeah, well, it definitely has been weak. So it's still good to work through these positions, understand which trades are appealing to you, which themes are looking long in their tooth, and then importantly, which you've been doing more of, is explaining why you're not taking positions. So that's a good insight to say what's deficient in these charts. And
yeah, you got a lot of liquidity issues at the moment, pretty choppy market as well. So as we were talking about earlier, sometimes being cashed up and not trading here is the smartest move. So, we're not getting good signals here at the moment. So that's telling us probably to keep our cash dry and be ready, because, it's like it'll be nothing for a while. Then all of a sudden, all the trades will be all on at once. So we just wait for the good trades to set up and then pull the trigger once they're ready.
And whether that's next week, next month, next quarter, or next year, that's really unknown, isn't it? But
yeah, I think it might be that. I think it'll only be weeks away. Might be a month away, or maybe a bit longer, but won't be that long.
Right. Well, that's something to keep watching for. Keep seeing when that tide turns, which positions are catching your eye, and which ones are on your shortlist for when that market does turn. They're ready to pull the trigger for you. That's some good insights, Gary. So thank you very much for the update, and we'll come back again next week.
Thanks, Chris.